Hey, it's Central Valley Business. I'm your host, Steve Walling. My guest for this segment is Michael Morgan Clark, private investigator. Welcome to the show.
Yes, sir.
And that's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you.
It's like I told you before we came on the air. I'm private, we all have watched those TV shows and all the private Is that life really that exciting?
I'm just getting started in this role.
Yeah?
There is some exciting times.
Are
and
there
there's
really?
a lot of down times.
Yeah, I bet. A lot of paperwork and computer work involved, I imagine.
There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of surveillance.
Yeah.
And you might be sitting for 2 or 3 hours to capture 15 or 20 seconds worth of the material that you need. So,
Mike, you said that you had experience in law enforcement and you retired.
yes, sir.
What made you decide to go into private investigation?
At first I wanted nothing to do with anything similar to law enforcement.
Yeah.
I had done it for a number of years. It was time for a change.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lot of experience in investigations.
Yeah.
And it was appealing to go into business for myself.
Yeah.
And although it was similar,
Mhm.
it was different in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it was a challenge. It's very easy to get information in law enforcement through the channels.
Yeah.
When you're doing investigations.
Mhm.
But as a private investigator, I had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of research, took some classes and some studying, and what I learned was there's actually more information available in the private sector once you learn
Really?
how to research it out.
Yeah.
So I just decided, well, this is what I know how to do. It's just it's a different road,
Mhm.
and I think I'll give it a shot. So far, I like it.
So far, you like it. I was going to say, what kind of people need private investigators?
There's, from what I'm learning, there's a whole array of work in this. Right now, I have a lot of experience in surveillance.
Okay.
So I seem to be getting a lot of divorce cases or infidelities or things of that nature.
Mhm.
A lot of attorneys utilize private investigators.
Really?
Yes, that's for what I just previously mentioned, the divorce cases, but also workers' comp issues.
Mhm.
I seem to be developing an act to be an expert in police policy and procedure.
Oh.
And so, give you an example, I had one case where one party was representing the restraining orders and the custody orders in one manner, and they were able to get a hold of an officer, and they kind of pointed him in the wrong direction.
Mhm.
And I was called in, I reviewed everything, and lo and behold, one individual was being told he might be charged with child stealing.
Mhm.
Well, it was nothing near that. It was a poor interpretation on
Mhm.
law enforcement's part. So there's a lot of work to be done there. Background investigations for employment,
Okay.
employee thefts and things of that nature. There's
Mhm.
just a whole array of things from what I'm learning.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mike. I still can't get the detective shows out of my head. I mean, I see these guys street chases and all this sort of stuff.
Right, yeah.
But it really isn't like that so much, is it? Or is it?
No,
Yeah.
So I have no policing powers or anything of that nature.
Right.
So if there's any chases or anything, I'm subjected to the vehicle code laws. Now I won't say that now and then doing a surveillance you might have to fudge a little bit.
Mhm.
But again, I'm not going to do anything dangerous to the public.
Right.
And if I do something that's a violation, I can be cited like anybody else.
Yeah.
But for the most part, when you're doing surveillance, you don't want anybody to see you, so you have to be very calm in what you're doing.
You're kind of a big guy. How do you manage to blend in, so to speak?
It's the vehicle that you drive,
Oh, okay.
and the manner in which you drive, and some of the things I did a lot of. Early in my career, I did a lot of narcotics investigations.
Oh,
So we did a
okay.
lot of surveillance,
Right.
and I think I was trained properly.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, when I was studying, one of the recommendations is that in heavy traffic, you stay right behind the target vehicle. And I'm like, everybody's going to see you if you're right behind. You have to stay 2 or 3 behind, and you don't want to be right in the sight. So you just blend in.
Mhm.
Fortunately, with my size, there's not a lot of surveillance that's done outside the vehicle.
Right.
But
Okay. What you can disclose, okay, and I
Sure.
understand that there's privacy issues and legalities and stuff. What's the most interesting case that you've been involved with so far that you can share? Or maybe the most challenging? One or the other.
probably the most challenging was at this point was a divorce case,
Right.
and there was a lot of information that was being provided to one party that just wasn't true.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the party that hired me, they didn't have any information on the other party as far as what their pattern was, what their routine was.
Right.
So that took a lot of extra surveillance just to kind of watch and see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that said, once that was taken care of, it is a lot easier to do surveillance on a housewife or a house husband as compared to a robbery suspect or a drug dealer.
I would imagine.
The robbery suspect and drug dealer, they're going to circle the block 2 or 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
and the other parties, they're just going to go about their business.
Right.
You know? But there is some things that are that can be fruitful if we learn the right stuff.
Okay. So I'm out here and I'm watching this, Mike, and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of neat, but why would I need a private investigator as a private citizen? Okay, we know attorneys, you know, in companies and possibly insurance companies that, you know, within the industry that use it, but as a private person,
Sure.
you know, okay, we got divorce, got that. What else? Are there other areas that I might seek the services of a private investigator?
Absolutely. If you own a business,
Yeah.
and you know you're hiring an employee,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be worth the time and effort to have a background check done,
Mm-hmm.
a proper one.
Yeah.
We learn a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know. In addition to that, you maybe own a business and you're not sure where all of your some of your profits are going, or you're just not sure. You want the facts.
Uh-huh.
We do well at blending in and seeing what's going on.
Let me ask you, in something like that, do you also involve yourself in the accounting issues of a business as part of your work, or do you have someone that does that for you?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
have not had a case like that yet,
Mhm.
but I could definitely take a look at that, and then if need be, we would hire somebody. I have
Right.
people that are available.
And I think of that only because I know I don't live actually in Fresno itself, but where I do live up the hills, we've had over the years that I've lived there various like embezzlement or, you know, fraud issues and stuff like that, where people have worked for a business for a long period of time and have embezzled or, you know, through fraud taken large sums of money that the owner of the business had no clue. You know, as a matter of fact, one of those cases, that person left this business, went to work for another business, and got caught over there by law enforcement, you know, people.
Right.
And then in going back, they found out how much they'd taken from that first business. So as a private businessman, if I have an expectation that, you know, I'm looking at the people coming in or, you know, the stuff that we're ordering and things don't jive, that makes a lot of sense to have someone like you to come in and work that out, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've had 2 cases. I specialized in domestic violence for a number of years. I was a supervisor.
Uh-huh.
I've had 2 cases that I was pulled in on to review the reports.
Right.
One case, the young lady was arrested.
Mm-hmm.
It was and these are very challenging cases for law enforcement. When you get an officer that has 1 or 2 years experience, sometimes it's hard to figure out who we try to determine who the dominant aggressor in the situation was, and
Yeah.
they have to make an on-spot decision, and sometimes it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I was retained for one of those cases. I looked it over. I pointed out some things. The individual was going to go with the public defender. She didn't have a lot of money, and I said, you know, she's probably going to wind up, if she pled guilty, even though she said she wasn't, she's going to get anger management classes for a year. It's going to be on her record, et cetera, et cetera. She's adamantly denied being guilty. The case was weak. She hired an attorney, and it was dismissed at the arraignment. I had another case which involved a very serious felony charge. I was brought in as an expert witness and a police procedure expert. We looked that case over. The gentleman was facing 20 years in prison.
Ooh.
In my opinion, it wasn't in Fresno County. I don't think it would have went to the DA's office in Fresno County, but there was a jury trial. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours, and he was found not guilty of all charges.
Awesome.
And worked with a great attorney on that case, Kevin Little, and I did my part. And it was just it was a newer officer at the time who left a lot of things undone, and we were able to be victorious. So I'm finding a niche there as a liaison with the police stuff.
That's that's a good fit for you. With
It is.
years of experience in law enforcement.
It is.
So
Yes,
if
sir.
someone is dealing with law enforcement on some of those things, and you know, they do the best they can, but sometimes, like a new law enforcement officer or one that maybe has been with the service for a while, but you know ends up in a field that they're not really experienced in, they make mistakes, and they're honest mistakes.
Absolutely.
But they're still charged with, you know, protecting and enforcing the law, and as that, even though they've made a mistake, their understanding is they're doing what they're supposed to. To have someone like you come in and say, you know, we look at this, maybe this isn't what's going on. And that's, for a defendant, that can be a very critical thing. Like you said, this individual is facing 20 years. It's tough.
Absolutely, and let me clarify, I have not changed teams.
Right.
In law enforcement, I looked for the truth.
Right.
I'll look at a case now, and I let whoever is retaining me, I let them know I see issues or I don't. If there's no issues, there's no issues.
Right.
But
and that's important.
It was more gratifying to help an innocent man go free than anything I've ever done.
That's great. Well, listen, Mike, thanks for being on the show. Again,
Stephen.
This is Michael Morgan Clark, private investigator. I expect to see that on my TV screen someday, maybe in an advertisement. Who knows? Maybe they'll do a show on it. Thanks for being here, Mike. It's real interesting. Sir. You get some stuff under your belt, come on back and we'll talk some more about it. I like this.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You need a private investigator, whether you're an attorney, a businessman, or a private individual. Michael Morgan Clark, private investigator. Oh, before we go, real quick, how do we get a hold of you, most importantly?
You can call me at 559-785-1900 or my website, clarkinvestigations.com.
There you go. That's how you find him. And I'll see you when we come back.